Peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to Veterans Arts on Air. I am your host, Mel L. And next to me is my wonderful co-host.
My name is Sarah Eilefson. I'm the Grants and Communications Coordinator for the National Veterans Art Museum.
All righty. And once again, we are back to discuss various things that are going on in and around our military and the arts that come from that. So we want to get right into talking about some of our upcoming events. So one of our first upcoming events, Memorial Day weekend, would be Tenacity and Truth, People, Places, and Memories. So would you like to tell them a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. We're launching it with an opening reception on Saturday, May 25th. The museum will be free and open to the public all day, with light refreshments and artist talks taking place from 1 to 5 in the afternoon. Tenacity and Truth is a really exciting show for us. It spans one of the broadest exhibitions that we've had to date. We'll have artists from World War II, Korea, Cold War, Vietnam, and the war in Iraq. And it's kind of a show that takes a look at the everyday and the really intense. What is war really like? Because it's not just the movies, right?
Right.
It's also
Absolutely. Yeah.
the food and the shoes and the clothing.
Yeah.
And how that relates to the intensity of...
Yes. The food was horrible. War's horrible. It all works in there together. Right. So,
Yeah.
All right. And that opens up again May 25th.
Yes, the opening reception is Saturday, May 25th. It will be up for a full year, so it'll be on exhibition through May 2014.
Okay.
We'll also be open for Memorial Day, which is the following Monday. We're generally closed Mondays.
Right.
Museums open Tuesday through Saturday, so we'll be free and open to the public that Monday, Memorial Day.
All right. Well, we talked about what's coming up. I'd like to take a moment now to talk to you guys about something that is coming down. One of the very first things that I saw when I walked into the Veterans Art Museum when they were still located in the South Loop was an exhibit called Above and Beyond, which was a powerful exhibit dealing with the more than 58,000 people who died during the Vietnam War. One of the things that they did with this memorial is they put together a dog tag for each of these different individuals, which you could find hanging inside of the museum right when you walk through the doors. So could you tell me a little bit about what was the process? What was going on when you all decided to take this exhibit down?
Yeah, absolutely. So we put the exhibit up in 2001, so it had been hanging for, 12 years.
Yeah.
Definitely one of our most popular, most famous pieces, but an enormous installation. And so when we moved to our new space last November, the building simply can't accommodate it.
Gotcha.
So it stayed on display in that South Loop location up until last month, at which point a crew took it down. It was such a process because, of course, it's hanging in the air, and each of the dog tags have the name of the serviceman or woman who was killed. And so we needed to know where it was. We needed to make sure the lines didn't get tangled.
Gotcha.
So if anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about that process, Phil Mon, who's a member of the board and a Vietnam veteran, helped with that process and did a great interview with WGN Radio. So that's on our website if you want to learn a little bit more about taking down Above and Beyond.
Gotcha. All right. So, again, we've got the upcoming events. We've got the things that have been taken down. But now, this is one of my personal favorites. We get to talk about what's been going on in our military as of today. And as always, the phone lines are open. So if you all would like to call in, please give a call to the number at the bottom of your screen. We would love to hear from you all. Back in January of this year, the outgoing Defense Secretary, Lyons A, announced that they will be lifting the ban on female service members in combat roles. Now, this caused a lot of debate within military realms, veterans especially, for a number of different reasons. I know when I first heard about this, the first thing that came through my mind was women have already been in combat roles in our military for a very long time. So what are you exactly are they lifting the ban on? And of course, as we go a little bit further or go deeper into it, one of the jobs specifically that women in the military had not been able to do had been the infantry or the ground combat roles. Now, they had still been out there in places like the motor pool, they working in the communications areas. So in every war that we have fought since I can remember, dating back to the first Gulf War, when I know I was fourth grade, had an aunt who was actually serving overseas during the war. So when I first heard that, I'm like, as far as I've known, they've always been there, but not in that particular role.
Right.
And there have been a lot of different reasons given as to why. They weren't physically up to it. They weren't mentally capable or ready to do it, and things of that nature. So what are your takes on that? Like,
Yeah, I would agree with you that women have always had a role in the military, and certainly, if it's been traditionally in the medical corps or the nursing corps, they're near enough to combat that the guns are firing near them.
right,
So this idea that they've not been in combat doesn't really reflect reality.
right,
And in terms of the question of women not being strong enough, that tends to treat women as a group without taking into account the great many number of exceptional women. Those who do want to serve and who are strong enough to serve side by side with the men who are already in combat roles and service.
okay. One of the things that I often tell people when dealing with talking about women and not being physically capable of it is that if you look throughout our military, even today, you will find men of different sizes, shapes, and things of that nature who are all being given the opportunity to do these things. One of the things that they do in the military is they train you.
Yeah.
We all have to go through boot camp of some way, shape, or form. So you have to be trained in order to do the job that you are applying to do.
And are there some who don't graduate boot camp? Some who don't meet the physical?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. As far as I know, if you are in boot camp and you fail a course, whether it be physical or mental course, they will recycle you back and have you go through it again.
Goodness.
So you can literally stay in boot camp for a couple of months, couple of years, depending on how long it takes you to physically get there. But again, that is why they train you in order to get there. They're not going to send you out into the field until you are at least physically capable to do what they're asking you to do and mentally equipped with the things that they want you to know.
Sure.
Right? So, case in point, when I did boot camp back in 2000, Marine Corps boot camp, we were 13 weeks in. All right? I had a guy who picked up in training with me after week 1 who had already been in boot camp for about 6 months. He had gotten recycled through a couple of times. By the time he had gotten through boot camp and through his MOS training, he had already gone through 2 of the 4 years in his contract. So he only had to do 2 years in the actual field. So, yeah.
And so how long was boot camp if you passed everything flying colors and just made
13
your way?
weeks.
Okay.
You get in 13 weeks, 13 weeks you're out.
Yeah.
Right? I was lucky enough to make it through in them 13 weeks. Had to, hide a few things. There was times when my arms are hurting. It was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. But it's like, I don't want to stay here another extra week either. So,
Right.
Gotta go. So that's that. One of the other things, though, when talking about women in combat or women in the military specifically, there comes this issue of MST, which is military sexual trauma. This is something that sends up a red flag for me every time we talk about women in the military in general, and that is that statistically, the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs say that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 100 men self-report cases of military sexual trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Now, once we get into that particular subject, and you're talking about letting women into a closer combat role, I was having a conversation with a veteran a couple of weeks ago who said, these guys that are out there fighting on the front lines, they are fatigued, they are tired, they are carrying guns, and they may not be mentally all there. So by putting women into a combat role, you are subjecting these women to more cases of military sexual trauma.
Okay.
So my first reaction to that is, all right. And then secondly, it's like, okay, they're already subjected to it. So by giving them a different job, how is that going to change it? I just couldn't understand that.
Especially when the change in position is one toward greater equality, you would think would engender more respect.
Yeah.
If someone's serving side by side with you, risking their life in the very same way that you are, maybe you wouldn't think of them as somebody you could victimize.
Right. And that has always been, I guess, one of the things for me is like, all right, you're saying putting women in this role is giving people more opportunities to make them a victim. So my thought or my question is this: if we are worried about the women in the military being victimized, instead of excluding these women, how about we take these young men and teach them not to do the things that make these women victims in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, it seems like the simplest way to deal with that, in my eyes anyway.
Right.
It's not the fault of a woman that she has had to go through this trauma. So why not deal with the outgoing? Why not deal with the men and what is going through their minds that mentally make them want to do these things, as opposed to victimizing the women for it? Right?
And we should be mindful, perhaps, a little bit on the statistics on both ends. That you referred to self-reporting,
Right.
And experts would say that the numbers are pretty low. That
Right.
a lot of this doesn't get reported.
Okay.
But on the flip side, it's not like every man in service is committing these acts.
Right.
So we need to be mindful. Not a group as a whole, but there are select individuals who are
Absolutely.
committing these.
And again, I mean, we have to deal with the fact that, when in the military, you do run a risk of fatigue, both physically and mentally, and that all plays a part in what's going on with these particular people.
Right.
So instead of looking and sending troops back and forth to war 3 or 4 times, making sure that each time that they come back, that before you send them across again, that they are actually mentally prepared to go back, because that's not always the case. At one point we were sending guys back on their 3rd tour across into Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're not mentally prepared for it, but yet we're telling others who have not even gone through training or have never been over there once that we're not going to send you over. It's like, I don't think that's quite going to be able to help us or give us the answers that we are looking for.
Right, that we need to be mindful of the situation that these servicemen are in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that might help as well. But as far as the women in the military or women in combat roles, like I say, they've already been there. They're already serving overseas. We're constantly seeing news photos of mothers coming home to their families. So they're already there. Right? If they're already there, they're already carrying guns, because every service member at the Corps is a basic rifleman. So everybody's already there in that capacity. The only difference is while the guys are out there running around on foot, we may have a woman in the back in a tank somewhere. She's still there. The medics still have to go out. Every time a unit goes out, there's always a medic there somewhere. So they're already there anyway. Why not give them the responsibility? Give them the chance. Yeah. And don't just, say, well, they're not capable, or don't blame it on the fact that, this MST situation is what it is. Fix the problems as they occur, so that we can make sure that 1 in 5 and that 1 in 100 goes away. All right. While we're talking about this particular subject, recently at the Veterans Arts Museum, we had an exhibit there from a Marine Corps veteran, dear friend of mine, Regina Vasquez, who put together an exhibit called Fatigue's Clothesline. Could you tell us, or tell the audience at least a little bit more about that particular exhibit?
Yeah, happily. That was part of Overlooked Looked Over, a show curated by Erica Sloan. It had 8 female veteran artists from a variety of conflicts. But Regina's work, it was so powerful. It was one of the first things you saw when you walked into the gallery, and it was literal clotheslines strung across the room, and hanging from it were military blouses that survivors of military sexual trauma had turned inside out and then had written their story on the outside of them. So it was an individual voice, but anonymized in a way. You can see on the screen some images from Fatigue's Clothesline.
Yes. One of these particularly, I came out 5 years later, a heavily medicated, guilt-ridden, PSTD suffering adult. Just a little bit. Sounds like we've got a caller. Or, excuse me. Asking for callers. Excuse me. Sorry about that. So once again, while we are on this subject, if any of you would like to call in, there is the number right there on your screen. Please feel free to give us a call and give us your opinions on the subject of military sexual trauma and or women in military or in combat in general. It has been said that by May 15th, which is about a week and a half away, the Army and the Marine Corps, which is what puts together the majority of our ground troops, have to have a plan in position as to how they are going to bring women into this particular role, how they are going to transition into getting them there. So keep an eye out for those of you who are watching the news at home and catching up with it on the internet or however you're getting it, to see exactly what our service members are actually going to do in order to make sure that those things get done.
And it's not just a question of people's attitudes or feelings toward women in combat. There's also some very real, what's the word I want? People need places to sleep and to go to the bathroom. And so there's infrastructure demands that moving women into combat positions would require the military to be prepared to do. So there's a lot of bureaucracy involved as well.
Well, as far as I know, if you are out in combat and you got to go to the bathroom, you better find a place and hope ain't nobody around. Because there's no place for me to go out there either. So I don't know exactly how much they're gonna do on that. I don't know. You had to do a little bit of planning to make sure we can work all that out. But yeah, when I was training, it's like you got to go, just walk away for a few hundred feet, and hopefully we can get there. All right. So again, because you're out, you're fighting in various places, so you never know what those areas are going to look like anyway. But you're absolutely right, especially when it comes to training and housing and things of that nature. We are definitely going to need to look at some of those things, and if they are, even if it would be as much as to put together an all-female infantry unit, or if they're going to bring them in and make the units co-ed, or what they're going to do. Those are definitely some things that need to be discussed, and I am actually looking forward to seeing what that wonderful Department of Defense is going to do for that. It should be an interesting one. And again, I'm actually going to show you all another photo from the Fatigues clothing line as it was displayed at the Veterans Arts Museum. As you can see, these are more than just one or two stories. These are stories from several women from across the globe who have all served in the military in some way, shape, or form, who have had to deal with this particular type of trauma. And just some of the stories that you hear from these folks, of women who are working as cooks, and they're having to listen to the cat calls, and they're having to listen to the constant whistling, and guys running around grabbing on them inappropriately. The sexual harassment that I think is rare in our everyday lives, but is definitely still an issue. It's something that these women are subjected to, and unfortunately a lot of them felt that because they are in the military and because it is a boys club for the most part, that they would actually have no say and there was nowhere to run. I know, me personally as a Marine, one of the things that I was told coming into the service is that if this woman said that you did it, whether you did it or not, they are going to take this woman's side. So I was always taught that the women had a voice and would be listened to a lot more than we would actually, they would actually listen to us guys. But as you get through the military, you find out that that is not always the case. So, ladies and gentlemen, looks like we have a caller. Cynthia, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
So, what is your take? What is your comment?
Okay, I have a comment because I have a question and a comment. The comment is, I've been through military sexual trauma, and I did not report it, and because of that, I'm having a difficult time with my claim towards the military. And I've been through counseling. I'm under doctor's care now, on medication. I've been out of the military since 91, and I've been denied, but I want to get some help. And then I also want to reach out to others because I went through my church and went through biblical counseling, as well as a biblical class, which helped me tremendously. And I want to reach back and help those women who are dealing with that as well.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Again, I'm sorry that you had to go through such an unfortunate experience. And I know it is very difficult, especially for unreported claims to actually go through once you've actually gotten up the courage to use your voice. There's always that obstacle that people have to go past. So if there's anything that we could do, again, the Veterans Hospital, I know especially, has their areas where they try.
Yes, and they are picking up speed slowly. They're adding more female practitioners every year. It is a slow gain, and certainly too slow. But on our resources page of the website, we have some links where perhaps you could get involved. One of the biggest things you can do is exactly what you're doing right now, is being an advocate, letting people know that they're not alone, that they're not the only one to whom this has happened, and that you don't have to stay silent.
Absolutely. And your question? Hello?
That was my question.
Okay.
Is as to, once I've been denied and I'm constantly going through this process, what's the next step? Because it's been years.
Yeah. Me personally, one of the things that I've been told for a lot of the folks that I've worked with and a lot of the speaking engagements that I've done across the country is that with every denial, like every door that closes, there's always another one, and walk through each and every one of them until he goes. I know it's a long journey. It's a very difficult one, but again, some of those sites that are listed on the National Veterans Arts Museum website that has been utilized to help women throughout the years since we have picked up this issue. Hopefully there's something there that could be very helpful for you going forward with your claims.
And there is a tremendous documentary out called The Invisible War that deals exactly with this subject and might give you some sense of where to go next.
All right. So peace and blessings, Cynthia. Hope everything works out for you there, love. Looks like we have another caller. Sean, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. What is your question or comment?
Yes, I'm there.
All right. What is your question or comment there, Sean?
My comment is that with military sexual trauma, it's, it happens to males as well in the military.
Absolutely.
And it's, it's covered up because, like you said, it is a boys' club. And when it happens, it's like you're frightened and you're traumatized. You don't know who to talk to or trust. And
Absolutely.
It's something that the Department of Defense and the VA needs to address seriously.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. As we say, statistically, 1 in 100 are actually reporting the claims. But, I mean, because it is the boys' club and because of what happens dealing with this trauma, it's unfortunate. Like, not a lot of them will actually speak up about what's going on. And I think until we can find a way to actually get them an avenue where they can actually voice their opinions on this, I think it is going to be very unfair and very unfortunate that a lot of these young men are not going to get the help that they need behind that. So again, you are 100% right. And as far as me personally and what I can do, like, I will continue to speak out and be a voice that tells these people, like, what, your story is important no matter who you are or what has happened to you. Each story, each of us has a voice, and that voice needs to be heard in some way, shape, or form.
And these traumas can be so isolating. I think one of the reasons why I was so pleased to be doing this show tonight is because not enough people are talking about it. Not enough people know that it's happening.
Absolutely. All right. Anything else there, Sean?
Yeah, well, it's just that, with guys, it's with guys, it's a pride thing.
Right.
And it's embarrassing, and that's one reason why they don't want to talk about it.
Oh, absolutely. It's been that way for a very long time. Like, that is always something that is a difficult subject that is going to be very hard for most people to actually to speak up on. But again, like, each of us individually, it is up to us to make sure that, as veterans especially, that we make sure that we are there to help those that are there to help us as well. So again, thank you, Sean, for calling in. Well, looks like, unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but this subject is not a subject that is going to go away. So I want to make sure that I express to you all that if you have been through a subject like this, or if you have questions or concerns about anything that we have talked about today, please do not let this conversation die right here at the end of this show. I would request that all of you actually get out and make your voice be heard. And again, you can reach any of us at the Veterans Arts Museum at our website. Sarah, would you like to give them that info for us?
Yeah, you could head to www.nvam.org. On the left sidebar, we have a resources page.
All righty. So once again, my name is Mel L. And
Sarah.
This is Sarah. And we'd like to tell you, remember, stand by what you're saying and stop saying it. Peace and blessings, ladies and gentlemen. I will see you in a month.
Good night.
Peace.